There was this time whereby when they were running to Kakamega police line with his friend, the friend was shot and dropped dead.
By the police or by the...
Now it was even assumed that there was a collaboration between the police and the people.
Welcome to today's show. My name is Judy Mongai, and today I'm hosting Jane Kuria, a 207 post-election violence victim, and she'll narrate to us what happened, what she went through, and at least we'll be briefed enough to know what exactly prevailed and have the picture in us so that when it comes to next year, we'll try to avoid being used, and we will try to stay connected as we have been. Hello.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. Where were you born? What you went through? Where you grew up?
Thank you so much for having me today. My name is Jane Kuria. I was born in Kiambu County, Limuru constituency, Morengeti village. And I grew up my childhood moments, at least I lived some few years there. And then we shifted to Kakamega County, Lurambi constituency to be precise, because my parents moved there for business cases. And so I had my childhood from Kiambu County to Kakamega County, and then later, because of the post-election violence, we came back to Kiambu County. Yes.
So, before the post-election violence,
yes.
How old were you?
Okay. We shifted from Kiambu County when I was in class 3, and then went to...
How long did you stay at Kakamega?
Kakamega County, we had around 5 years. Yes, because it was 5 years. That should be 5 years. And so I kept my lower primary. I did it from Kiambu County, and then my upper I studied in Kakamega County. But along the way, I had not completed, I had not done my KCPE, so we had to come back home. Yeah.
So what really happened? For the elections were in December 27, if I can remember well, 2007. What prevailed?
I do remember.
So you were in class 8, 2007?
No, I wasn't in class 8. I was in class 7. Yes. So I was just nearing another year so that I may do my election, my KCPE. And so I do remember the politics and campaign were going on as usual, but there was political tension because as we all know, in every campaign period, in every election period, we have the team power that wants to take leadership home, and we have the opposition team, and so both of them are grabbing for that power. And one thing that I came later to realize that it is not even the leaders that suffer, but the people. The common mwananchi is the person who suffers. And so the campaigns went on, and even during classes or when we were studying, you could feel somebody tell you that hawa ikifika ni wakati wa election watajua kwao ni wapi. So there were threats from even fellow students, and hearing
those are primary school pupils.
Yes, you can imagine they are 12, 13 years, 14 years of age.
They already know you are this tribe and they are this tribe.
And so I came to realize that it does not start just at a higher level, that political level. It starts even at home, because how could that person or that kid know that at the end of the day, after the elections, these guys need to go back to their home place? And so the threats were there, but because I was still young, naive and everything, I was like, they don't know what they are saying. It is only maybe because of we are of different tribes and that. But later, now some few years later, that's when I knew that tribalism is rooted. It does not just start at a higher level. It begins somewhere. It begins at home. It begins at the community level. It even begins at a church level. And so we continued learning and expected that everything will be normal, because even your neighbor that you had lived with for so many years, you couldn't imagine that there was something they could do to you. After all, you have been neighbors.
So prior to election, there was nothing like victimization.
No,
you are this tribe, you are this tribe. You were one.
Everything was normal. You go shopping together, you study in school together, you go to church together. You share so much in common together. And so there was peace, there was love, and there was life in everything that was there. But now, after the elections, or when we are nearing elections, that's when the divisibility team came in. And you could feel even the way your neighbor is treating you, the way, if the landlord is not Kikuyu, maybe of another tribe, you could feel the intent in how he's handling your issues. When you go even to the shops, you could feel there is something strange, or rather there is something different from how these people have been handling you. And so we started sensing that something might go wrong. And as a wise person, you're not supposed to like just to wait there and see how things unfold. You as well start trying to look for other means. It's already marked in you that you're not allowed to stay longer in this territory. So you need to find your way back home, or rather you need to run to safety. So that was how that was how things were. Before elections, they were good and they were easy. But when we are nearing elections, because of the campaigns and the politics, that's when things started changing.
So it seems like the residents were fed bad things about other tribes by the politicians. That seems so.
That was the case, because I do remember one time he's called Boni Halwale, when he was doing his elections campaign and everything, because he was of an opposition team, his cars were burnt, and even the remains. I do whenever I travel to Kakamega to visit some friends and some relatives, I see the remains of those cars at Kakamega police line. They are still there. And so it is a mark that reminds me that once there was violence, and once there was a loss, once there was political instability. And so I do blame a lot our leaders when it comes to tribalism, but we as individuals, I also blame us as Kenyans, because how can we stay for like 5 years at peace, and then just an election period, somebody from nowhere just comes in and distracts the peace that you have been having. And so it is never easy. After all, they have to campaign. And one thing in Kenya, we don't do politics in terms of agendas, or in terms of what somebody wants to come in, development and such. We usually do campaigns in the form of
bad person.
Yes, bad person.
You don't sell your agenda.
You don't sell your agenda, but you just want to say the bad things about the other person. And now we as Kenyans, whatever we grab, we don't even look at what agenda that person is bringing. We usually look at the bad things that the person is being told. If they say he's corrupt, he's everything, we shall go to the election ballot, not looking at the agendas of the other person, but with the mentality of, we are not going to elect this person because he's corrupt and because of such things.
So did you wait for elections, or you moved prior?
Once the elections were done,
that is December 2007.
Then that's when things started now even getting worse, because it was now clear that at the end of the day, the power would still be retained in central Kenya. And we were in a western county. So it was very clear that you guys, you have to go back home. You have to go back home. This is our land. This is our home. You cannot just come all the way from Kiambu to Kakamega and settle.
And people would directly tell you that.
They would directly tell you that. Even your neighbor would directly tell you that. Na huku si kwenu. And you know what was even surprising is we are both tenants. We are paying rent at the end of the month. But how comes you as a neighbor, you have the guts to tell us that we have to go back home? So it was true and clear that you guys need to vacate, and your vacation should start immediately, because if you waste another time here, things will get messy. Wow. And so we were kids. I remember me and my younger sister, we were kids, and so mom and dad said that before things get worse, we need to shift you guys as soon as possible. And so because it was already, I remember it was they were counting, they were still doing those counting and everything, and it was clear that the Mount Kenya community would retain the power. And so it was easier for me and my sister to be shifted to Kiambu, Limuru as soon as possible, because we were kids. And so mom and dad organized how we would travel back home. We had an auntie who had come to visit us at Kakamega, and so we traveled as soon as possible back home. So mom and dad were left behind. But just after we had just arrived back in Limuru, we didn't stay for long. Then we started hearing the news and everything, how the CBD, the Kakamega CBD, things are being destroyed, how people are rioting, how people are burning other people's businesses, how people are killing each other. And,
tension came in.
There was tension because at the back of my mind, it was like, was that the last time I saw my father and my mother? Will I ever see them again? And I'm the eldest, so I had to stand strong on behalf of myself and my sister too. And so we all we could do is just call her, and they would tell us things are now messy. My father organized how my mom would come home. She was pregnant that time. She was carrying my younger brother pregnancy, and so it was not safe for her. It wouldn't take long for her. She was almost due for delivery, and so she was told to come home. At least there would be peace. She would have a safe delivery and such. But then the vehicles were very few, because nobody was risking to bring his vehicle all the way from Nairobi to Kakamega to ferry people. And so
it might be destroyed
along the way. And mark you now, you're coming from Nairobi County, you're passing through Nakuru, Nyandarua.
And they believe the matatus belong to the Gema community.
After all, the Eldoret Express that time was the best vehicle to travel with. And so the few that were there would charge a lot of money. Not only the buses, but also even the airlines. It was very expensive to travel by air from Kakamega to Nairobi. And so at least one day, because my dad was in the matatu sector industry, he managed to secure a seat for my mom. And so my mom came into Limuru, but they had so many struggles along the way, because there are police, there are riots, there are roadblocks by people and everything. They just want to, they say, nani mkikuyu huku, toke hapa. The brutality was there. But she finally secured her seat and her way home. Now the problem was my dad. He was left there when things were worse. The mechanics in Kakamega town, they were rude, brutal, and they were very violent. They weren't sparing any Kikuyu person, no. People ran to churches. I was a member of Apostolic Faith Church in Kakamega, and I remember there was a time people ran for rescue. in the church. And mark you, there was a part of the church that was burnt. So those guys, they feared no man, neither did they fear God. So you're running to church for protection and shelter, yet those people still have the guts to come into church. And so now we had a challenge. Dad is there. The neighbor, our good neighbor, you know, the one that we had lived with for so long, we knew that because now Dad is there, the family would protect my dad. But they were amongst the people to say that they do not know him.
The immediate neighbor.
Yes. They do not know him. They have never seen him. And so he was left to survive.
On his own.
And from where we were living to police line, to Kakamega police line, it was a distance. And so getting to town CBD, then to Kakamega police line, you could pass through the mechanics, stopovers, and the areas they do work. And they knew him. They knew him was Kikuyu. They knew him. He was from Central. And so passing through that, it was not easy. And there was this time whereby when they were running to Kakamega police line with his friend, the friend was shot and dropped dead.
By the police or by the...
Now, it was even assumed that there was a collaboration between the police and the people. Because the police were saying that whatever they were doing, they were controlling, they were maintaining law and order and peace and everything. But in the midst of that commotion and everything, there were so many people. There were people who were killed and others injured. And so my dad saw his friend drop dead, but he had to save his own life. He had to run. But along the way, there were so many hurdles he had to jump, and so he had to walk through the streets and everything. But luckily, he got to
the police station.
To Kakamega police station. Luckily, there were Red Cross and everything. They offered them tents and everything, and they managed the situation. But whatever business we had, it was burnt down. Our house things, they were taken and distributed amongst those neighbors that we had lived with.
They broke into
the house and somebody could pick whatever they felt like it's suitable for them. And so life now got messy and crazy because it meant we had to start life from zero. I do remember when the Kiambu people saw that their people were being killed from other counties, they also took the initiative that whoever is not even Kikuyu must not reside here. It's either they are gone or they are dead. So there was a war between the central people and other communities. Now life even got worse when we came back to Kiambu. Yeah.
Here to Kiambu.
Yes. So you're coming in, you don't have much. I do remember the only clothes we had are the ones that we had packed in our small bags. So that means everything else had been left behind in Kakamega.
So it's nowhere to be found.
It was nowhere to be found, and it was not promising that one day you shall have back those clothes. So it meant you survive from now henceforth. Now we have our grandma, my mother's dad. She took care of us, and the Limuru Center, Kiradimo Center. That's where most of the people that had been chased away from their homes. We had others from Molo, others from Wasingishu, Eldoret, now the Kakamega, now from all the areas that there were riots. They had come they would go to Kirathimo Center, and there would be relief food that would be given in. As you all know, you can't live your life based on relief food, because it is not even
every
much
day, and it's not every day.
It is not everything. You have a life to continue. So,
and you are used to your normal lives,
yes,
your parents providing everything. Now everything have changed.
We were used to a good life. A good life, I would tell you. There was nothing that we would ask and we would lack. So now you're coming from a good life to a begging life. It was so hard for me. My sister would cry at why we are eating ugali with the sukuma wiki from maybe 2 consecutive days. She was not used to that. She was used to changing meals.
But now you have to adapt.
Now you have to adapt. You have to
the reality now.
You have to go to my mom will have to go to Kirathimo Center to collect some food so that she may come and cook and feed in. It was a hell of a moment. Coming back to the society wouldn't take you in completely.
They can't really understand.
They don't understand. Even when they are commenting, they don't really understand the situation. We had to continue with our studies, and so I enrolled together with my sister at Morengeti Primary School.
Now 2008.
Yes. So that we may continue with our studies. And to my surprise, now there was already a tag IDP students or pupils. And so every time after the parade, you would either hear the headmaster or some teacher say that, and those who are IDPs to remain behind.
What do you mean?
we were a group. We were a group because now even those that weren't from Limuru area, they had secured places in the classes, and so they had to continue learning. And so after maybe a parade or maybe some visitor would come in, and you would see a teacher walk through the classes, going shouting names, those who are IDP, come out, come out, come out. And so it wasn't easy because it was already a tag. Every time you walk, you would see students saying that hawa ni wale walifukuzwa, hawa ni wale walichomewa. It brought me down to some mental breakdown.
And when you could be called out, was it for help or just being called for the sake?
Like sometimes it's even for the show off, because they want, maybe the person concerned who wants to come in wants the people to see that they are concerned about how these people are faring on, and how they are moving, how are their studies and everything. And too much, it was a show off. It was only a few incidences whereby the person who came in was genuine and was willing to help. I do remember one time when you're moving from one class to the other, maybe like class 7, you're 2 streams or 3 streams, so you're moving from your class to the other. And I remember colliding with a teacher, and he told me that unatembea tembea aje huku kama hii ni IDP camp, hii ni shule.
Really?
So I still remember those words, and I don't.
So hurting to a kid.
I don't think I'll ever even forget them, because what I did, I just shed tears and went back to my class. I cried, I literally cried. because I even asked myself, what ethics and codes are they taught as teachers? As a teacher, is he supposed to behave that way? The person who is supposed to give you comfort and cheer you up is the same person who is tearing you down. And so I let that go, and I said that maybe one day things will just change. And to even the students, I was a top performer, but by then my mind was so crowded and everything, so my grades dropped. And so the ones that we were learning with them, or rather the one that we started schooling with them, they knew me as a top performer, but now my grades are below. And so they wouldn't understand whatever I was going through. So all they could say is that, huyu alienda Western akakuwa mjinga.
They don't understand you are not okay mentally.
They don't understand that my situation is so difficult that even if I narrate it to them, they won't understand. So life had to continue. We had to grow with that much struggle, in and out of class, in and out of session. But finally, I completed my primary education and joined secondary high school. I went to a county school, Our Lady of Mercy in Karariga Girls. It's not far away from home. And so that's where I went on with my studies. Now by then, my mom could do farming so that she may cater for our school fees and everything. My dad would do small jobs and that. And that blow even today, even if you tell my dad to go back to Kakamega,
it's a never.
He will never.
So you, even after the riotings were calm, you never went to check for your properties?
What were you going to check on?
You already know they were...
You already know they were already distributed amongst those neighbors. And where your business was, it is already burnt down. There was nothing to go back for.
And maybe any compensation, they were never called out, those who are victims.
The Kenyan system broke some long time ago. It is not this time that it is breaking down. As usual, even the CDF money or any compensation money, there are those that do take in the money.
So unfortunate.
And it never reaches the rightful owner. And so I've never seen any compensation.
Has your parent ever tried to reach out?
Why would you reach out where else there are so many cases from the post-election violence that are still even today in courts? And they have never been solved. So what miracle would be there that when you go to ask for your compensation money, it will be given to you? It was now you and the world. You struggle your way up
and forget everything.
There was that moment whereby you forget about the past, even though it is recalling, because now and then, every time maybe I will tell of my future, my past must come in there. So it was us to burn that bridge of the past and start way forward. And let me tell you, I do remember when I was in high school and everything, when things maybe didn't run well and such, I approached one of my relatives and asked him that, could you kindly just assist us in some way so that my fees could be cleared, or I would do some one thing and things. And surprisingly, the relative told me that you have to sleep with me.
A relative?
Yes, a relative, so that I may give you what you want. And so at that moment, those words didn't hit me that hard. But later on, that's when I've realized that people do exchange sex for education, sex for pads, sex for money,
so unfortunate.
Sex for a good life. It happens. And when that person is that desperate situation, they will end up compromising their dignity so that they may have that education. Because if I didn't stand up with my principles and everything, I could have ended up having sex with my relative for the sake of my education.
This is a relative who is supposed to be taking care of you.
Yes.
Someone who should be there for you when you need.
Yes.
But they want to take advantage of you because of the situation.
Because of the situation. But I do remember telling him that, you know what, even though my life or my education life comes to an end today, I will never
regret that you never did it with him.
I will never regret the fact that I never had sex with you for my education. And I told him point blank. And I told him, I wish you to live so many years so that you may be here to watch my success without your help. And so, you know, when you see that girls are out there, they are so much traumatized, it's because one or the other, there was some time they compromised their dignity for the sake of education. Because, you know, that desperate situation.
And you want at least to help your parents out since you are the firstborn.
Yes.
You know the struggle at home, so you don't want them to have more stress.
Yeah. So you, as a child, maybe you would always feel like, it will be a one-time thing, but I will have secured my education system. And so it was that. So I would be on and off from class. And
did you share with your parents?
It was so much hurting, and it was embarrassing. You know, like if the relative is of a cousin to one of my parents, how do you just go and tell your parent that so and so told me this and this?
It will be too much for them to bear.
It will also be too much for them. So it will be too much for me and too much for my parents too. So it was easier for me maybe to carry that burden and not to destroy their relationship, their family relationship and such. And so I that thing grew up in me, and it was inside me. And I'm amongst the few people who talk more about themselves. I rarely do talk about myself, not unless it's necessary. And so I bore that pain, and continued with my studies. So I'll be on and off from class. And when that list would be called, I wouldn't miss there. I wouldn't miss to be amongst those students who are told to go home. And so it was a routine. When I see the bazaar, I would know that it's time for me to pack in my books because I'm going home. And what will be so hurting, it's when I'm going home, I knew that there was no miracle that would have been done home. I go and find that there is already the pay slip. I go back to school. No. So it would mean that I go back home, stay some few days. And you know, relatives, how they are, they'll be like, okay, ujalipiwa fees, uko home juu ya fees, uko home juu umefukuzwa nyumbani. And mark you, that person isn't asking you for the sake of assisting. They just want to torture you mentally. They just want to add that insult to you right on your face. That it's better even you could not have enrolled to school, better you could have stayed at home and such. But through the struggles and everything.
Did you ever try to maybe go for those CDF scholarships?
The good thing is, I even thank God for that. There was this woman at our home. When I count my blessings, I count her as one, because she was amongst that NGCDF committee group. And she ensured that every time the CDF bursary could be disbanded and such, at least even though the money is not that much, but it was chipping in, it was helping. And so my 4 years in high school, that CDF money, I never lacked even one time. And so if the fees was a lot, at least the money could chip in and assist. And so that my journey in high school, I was an all-round student. I was good in sports. I was good in music. I was a good debater. I was an all-round student. So even
in high school, was there victimization?
At least in high school, I was already grown. So what would you tell me?
You are past that.
Yes, I'm already past that. There were years whereby you could tell me that and I would break down into tears and I would feel sorry for myself. But now when I enrolled high school, I knew that I never needed sympathy. I needed an opportunity. And because I had been given that opportunity to study, nobody, and I repeated it to myself, nobody will ever get me down. So I would face it off. You come brush shoulders with me and I'll be there for you. I'll be there to give you a word.
You had already stand strong.
I already had grown stronger, and not because I was good with even talking to teachers and everything. So we bonded a lot. And so they would tell me, you stand strong, stand with your principles. And so I agree. High school was just like a good normal life because nobody even dared. Because if I give you a response, the other time you hear somebody saying that they want to come and...
You want them.
Yes. They already had those the red lights. So they wouldn't even dare. And so my high school was that good. Because when I'm not in class, maybe I'm away sports, or we have gone maybe for academic somewhere, symposium and such. And so I even usually tell my most of the people my high school calendar was already fixed. Because first time I would go for sports, second time it's music and drama, third time it's in the educational trips. So
you are an all-round
student, and that worked well for me because when maybe I'm in class and I would feel like I'm feeling pity for myself. When I go out for music and drama and such, I forget because you interact with other people, you meet with other people.
You are occupied
with other things and your mind is already occupied. And so by then now, things had at least started to run normal at home. We would still at least, even though not a good life, but
a better
life. I pitied those people that maybe were so much victimized by the situation that it took them long to stand on their feet again. Because I know of people even today, life has never been the same again from the post-election violence. There are those that were chased from their own lands.
They know nowhere else.
Okay, for instance, maybe somebody who was born in Kakamega, they only know Kakamega as their home. Now they have been chased away from that. And maybe not all relatives were well receiving. There were places whereby people, even the relatives, couldn't accommodate them.
True.
And so they had to struggle. Others had to be left to the streets. Others turned even into gangsters for survival. And every time maybe I see violence, be it even between a husband and a wife, or between a cousin and a cousin, it shrinks my heart because I know what it brings. I know the effects, and most of the time maybe people look at material things but they don't look at the mental side, because a lot of people, material wealth, maybe your house can be burnt and you go back to work and everything
comes back to normal.
But talk of those people who went through mental breakdown and depression, and they are the most. And not all people are willing to listen to your story and assist you. Others will listen to your story and use it against you, or they will listen to your story and then be agents of spreading.
They be the ones who are torturing you more.
Yes. And so I know of so many people who went through post-election violence, and
those who were schooling with your neighbors, and the people you know.
Yes. And there are those that they never, even when you ask them about that moment, they never want to share out that story.
Because it will never be the same.
It will never be the same. There are people who lost their parents, others their kids.
True.
Others, it's not even like they died, but through that commotion, like when there is commotion, kila mtu ukimbia pande yake. So a mother was separated from her kids, a family was separated from the other.
They don't know whether they died or they just went astray.
They don't know.
To date.
Even to date.
So hurting.
It's so hurting. And so there are people, every time we talk of 207, they just shrug off. They don't want to talk about it. It's so painful.
To date.
Even to
more than
date.
13 years.
More than 13 years, and somebody hasn't healed from that.
And the nation feels like that's past.
And like even every time maybe somebody brings that issue to court, you would even see a judge, they're not even much attentive to that.
It's already, it's past.
10 years plus. What are you bringing on board?
But there are those who still have their wounds fresh.
The scars, the marks. If somebody was shot at the leg, already that scar, the mark is still there. So every time the person is bathing and such, they already know that this was as a result of the 2007 election. And so every time we are approaching elections,
it's tension.
It's tension. Especially, I usually feel for people maybe outside Mount Kenya region, and they're not into safe places. After my high school, I went to college in Uasin Gishu County.
Didn't you fear?
Okay, after the election, I thought that, what if I become an agent of
peace?
What if I show people that it isn't that people can't live together? You can still live together and be good neighbors and live peacefully. And so I also love traveling, and I love learning other people's culture, exchanging ideas with them. And so I saw that learning within Nairobi, it was still home. And so it's normal. I didn't want that, so I had to look for somewhere far. And now I was in a Kalenjin based society. And during the post-election violence, they were also masters when it came to that.
True.
And so studying from there, you could also go to Kiamba, Huruma, and you could see the places that were affected, and the areas even where people, the church whereby people were burnt. And so first of all, going back there, it brought memories back. Oh, that, by the way, I even asked myself, by the way, nimefanya nini? Where have I come? Nimekuja wapi? But now I had to interact and socialize, and coming from a Christian background. And so it was easy for me to mingle even with the heads of department, the dean, the principal, and such. And so I would interact with the people and read their minds. And I would even randomly ask them, if worse comes to us today, and I'm not like, I'm not Kalenjin, would you host me? Would you do that? And I saw that there were people who had developed a good mind that were still willing to help. But there are also those people that are rooted into tribalism. You cannot change them. It is in their blood, and it is not easy for them you cannot change them. Because even when we are studying, you could see that when maybe somebody hears from their home area that there is war, they would come from class and travel home so that they may fight.
Yani travel to fight.
Yes, travel to fight. And mark you, that is a campus material guy. They already have
person.
Yeah, they already have that knowledge.
That tribalism it's not good, but they would still go and fight. And so I understood that it is not everybody who can be changed. True.
They are just those that should be left that way. And so it was easy for me. In Uasin Gishu County, we would roll up, go for street food programming, children's home and such. And so that helped me. And so when we were in college, I would go for missions, other counties, go interact with the people, go to areas like Mount Elgon, whereby there were clashes. And I remember one time we went for a mission at Kopsiro in Mount Elgon area, and we we found people that were victims of post-election violence. Others, their hands had been chopped off. Others, their legs had been cut off. And so somebody is narrating to you the story, how it happened, how the government hasn't even compensated them. And because it is interior, so nobody cares for them, nobody bothers whether those guys are compensated or not.
Someone was working with their own hands, they never borrowed anyone, now they have been disabled and no one is there to help.
And I'll tell you for real, they have suffered. The poverty level is high. You know, that person only depends on the society to feed him or her. And so every time they are narrating their story, they do more of tear shedding than talking.
Because they still can't believe they are the one who are borrowing, yet they could work for themselves. They never know they are struggling.
They are struggling.
And no one is there to help.
No one is there to help. And I would even ask myself whether even the government knows there are people who are back there that are suffering.
That area has an MP. Someone who is supposed to represent us where we can't go. Joy can't just wake up and decide that I'm going to raise a motion that there's someone in my neighborhood who went through this and this and they're yet to be compensated.
Those guys have area chiefs, they have MPs, and they have everyone there. But even from their bad roads, it is a clear indication that whoever they elected was just sworn in as the MP and went to have a good life elsewhere.
And who elected them to begin
now
with?
The thing is, it is us as Kenyans.
We forget very easily.
Kenyans forget too soon. And for us Kenyans, if a story comes up and it is a bad one, we'll be yapping all over social media, because I call that yapping, social media. But after a day or two, something else comes up, covers up the main story. We forget about that and now focus on something else.
True, very true.
So it is our duty as Kenyans. I do remember the other day we have a hashtag stop loaning Kenya, IMF and such. And there was so much unity. There wasn't even tribalism.
For a day or two.
For a day or two, it was trending that even IMF had to listen to the pleas by Kenya. And so even when they disbanded that loan, they had to give it with conditions. Now that was unity via social media. My question is, come next year, shall we see that same unity, or it will be something else? And mark you now, 2022 looks more tensed than even the 207.
True. It has more. Already people are in fear.
It is already.
And it's more than a year to election. I
remember from 2017 and today we are to 2021. There is no day that we don't have political news. Over 3 years and we are still having political news every day. So meaning that we saw in people in 2017, but from there people have been doing campaigns and doing politics since then. And so I really do wonder what measures shall be taken in come next year to curb that tension and everything. But it starts with us as Kenyans. If whatever unity we have in social media could be brought in to reality, it would be a good thing.
But why do people change? Election here makes you remember, oh, I'm a Kikuyu, oh, I'm a Luo. This person should not be next to me. This person should be elsewhere. Why?
I do not know what entails, and I don't know what comes in or what triggers somebody to forget about maybe the 4 years they have lived with that person just for the sake of that election.
People help each other. People stay united. Even you don't, in an office, you don't recognize this is a Luo, this is a Kikuyu, this is a Kalenjin. But election year, election month, that's when diversity begins.
now that's I usually name it this way: what you see, you think, and act. Our leaders from the word go, and the face of media, social media builds and also destroys.
True.
Because if I'm a leader and whatever I'm yapping on social media is inciting my people to fight against the other community, that's what is going to happen.
They will definitely do. If I support this person and he's saying this.
And politics of this is our person, this is from my tribe, it should come to an end, because that is what has brought Kenya chaos. Because at the end of the day, I want somebody who has a Kikuyu name to be in power. I won't even look at their agendas. I won't even look at what that person is bringing on the table.
Simply because the fact that you vote him in,
I'll vote him in. And so that politics needs to end.
And do you think it's going to end anytime soon?
Well, it's not anytime soon, just as corruption can't end with one night, because the tribalism has taken roots. It has roots. And even to uproot a tree, it takes efforts.
True.
So maybe one day, hopefully, these things will come to an end. And I'll tell leaders and even the people at large, whatever damage you cause to people, it remains in their heart. It remains in their heart. Just like the 1998 bomb clash and everything. Every time maybe you'll talk of that, somebody was affected, they will shrink and that.
True.
So whatever damage they do, it is not even more of wealth and property, but of depression and mental breakdown. That's what people suffer. True. That's why we are having so many people committing suicide, people killing each other, because you can fight against property, but against mental breakdown, it's not easy. It is not easy. You'll never see a politician's kid in the streets
campaigning.
No. When we say that today hakuna Ruiru itafungwa because we are having a demonstration and such, you won't see their kids. Hata huyo leader akikuja, anakuja tu na apite, amwache nyinyi kwa ground
mkipigana.
So it is us to do.
Just recently here at Kiturai,
yes,
watu waliumia
just because a political leader is coming in,
and he'll just talk for a few minutes
and go
arudi back.
So mimi nitakuumiza kama wewe ni neighbor wangu na tumeishi na wewe pamoja, such that ukikosa unga ni mimi ndio utakuja kwangu, but just because of that moment, that political hype moment destroys everything,
and people get hired,
and people
500.
Just imagine 500 with this.
Is it that poverty is leading us to do unbelievable things?
Poverty, it's not even about wealth, it's dwarfness of the mind. If somebody is poor in the mind, you cannot, that person is beyond salvation, you cannot help them. 500 shillings.
Imagine.
Just imagine if I give you 500 shillings as a lady, utaenda kwa supermarket ukuja na nini?
A small paper.
Hata ile ya 10 bob. Actually hata utabai karatasi, utatoka nayo ukiwa umeshika hivi. 500 shillings makes you kill somebody, makes you destroy properties worth.
Risk your life too.
You just die. 500 shillings. A bullet right on your toe or something. So it is us to change the mentality.
It all starts with us.
With us and the mind too. So along the way, what I learned is that I never needed sympathy. I needed an opportunity. I'm not that woishe. I don't like that. Every time I'm even in a tough situation,
it won't last.
It won't last. The situation won't last. Just the way day and night they give space to each other.
And those sympathies too won't last.
They won't last because
we would say the IDP is being fed here and there, but for just few days. And until today, there are those that their lands were grabbed and they will never see them again. There are those that they are just
their lives changed and it will never be the same again.
Very true.
And so every time I talk to somebody, I tell them that you don't need sympathy, you need an opportunity. And when you're given that opportunity, use it well, grab it. Show the world that you just needed that one chance for you to stand up. You needed that one chance for you to change your life.
True.
Because if you have a positive mentality, even though success might take long, but it will definitely get you there. So if you change your mentality and change your mind and pull yourself together and say that I don't need sympathy from the people. No, I can work myself up. Do that. If it takes you to crawl, crawl. If it takes you to limp, limp. If it takes you to run, run. But so long as every day you are alive, you wake up alive, it is a sign of hope that you can still do better than yesterday.
True.
You can still do better than yesterday. And to those that were affected during the 2007-2008,
those who are still waiting for justice.
The wheels of justice might be rolling slowly, but one day they will roll out eventually.
Do you think it will ever happen?
Sometimes maybe it will happen when they are no longer alive, because even those that fought during the Mau Mau and such, they are yet to be compensated.
True.
They died. Even those few that remained, they haven't even been compensated.
Very true.
So I'll tell them that the fact that after 10 years you're still alive shows that God had planned for you being alive, and you need to stand strong. If you get an opportunity, grab it. Use your story not to sympathize with people, but a story of you being a hero, how you conquered, how you came out from that dark world moment, and now you're here. Inspire people. Every time you see violence, be an agent of peace, because you already know yourself what is brought by violence.
Yeah.
Be peaceful. Don't even run to courts and everything. Your justice might not be found there. No. Live with people well. Embrace love, embrace peace. And I think with that, we can live a better life.
So, watoke kwa hiyo kakoni, ati I'm still waiting here to be compensated.
Watoke kwa that IDP tag. Actually, mimi hadi wa leo, mi huwezi niita IDP. I'm no longer there. I was there once, but right now I'm not there. Because I refuse to tag myself, because if every day somebody would call me an IDP,
and you take it,
I take it. So I would live all my life in that shell of being an IDP. But because I refuse to be branded and tagged, that's why today I can share my story. That's why today I can walk around and tell people, you need peace more than even that property. And so they come out from that shell, from that tent, from that comfort zone of being an IDP, step up and step out. You might be starting slowly, or you might start small, but eventually you will be headed somewhere. You will be there.
So let's just leave that to past.
We leave that to past
and move on, start a new life. If justice comes, well and good. If it doesn't, it will not affect us.
It won't affect us. And to the government of Kenya, there were so many lives that were lost. There were so many lives that were changed. If only maybe somebody could bring up a case and you work it out, because there are so many cases that are lying in court unsolved.
It would be a relief to me.
Yes, and the government should know that whatever money they distribute or disband, it never reaches that needy person. Because there are so many people, even today, they have never been compensated. And I don't even see any time being compensated. We have had how many elections from there? You have the 2013, the 2017.
Now we are heading to
2022. Mark you, in the 2017, we had 2 elections. I remember traveling all the way from Kisumu to vote for the second time, just practicing my own right as a voter. So they should just step out and refuse to be IDPs, because we already overcame 10 years plus even though the lives are, they can't be retracted back to whatever lives they had, but they can do something. They can come out and start again. Yeah.
Very, very interesting. Very true. We need to come out of that IDP cocoon. Let's stand up. If justice comes, well and good. If it doesn't, we have already overcome that, and we stand strong to better and a greater future ahead. If you still can breathe, nothing is impossible. Thank you for watching. I've been your host, Judy Mongai. Remember to subscribe. We are grateful.